Good evening, Des Moines. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program here, broadcasting from the webcast1live.com studios, downtown Des Moines, Iowa. This is Lefty bringing you the perspectives you love from the sides you hate. And with me across the table is my main man, the guy who's already got his resume in to take Brian Williams' job, Pat Petrosh. Doc, what's up?
Not much, just my weight, not my IQ. You know what? I found my invisible glasses. You know where they were?
Where were they?
Right on my nose. You
Holy
know why
smokes.
I couldn't see them?
Because they're invisible.
Because they're invisible. Anyway, I got those back. I'm pretty happy.
Well, good.
So So when's
NBC going to call you about that, buddy? Because they're going to need a new anchor.
In the words of the famous wordsmith, John Bon Jovi.
Okay.
I'm living on a prayer.
Yeah.
So, they should call me. What better to shake up the NBC News than to get an old fat biker dude on wearing a Who's Your Fada, shirt.
Well, and a goatee.
And a goat. And pretty soon it's going to be long enough again. I can put beads
start braiding it again. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Well, what do you before we get to, I got to say, probably, I think our first guest, and really our only guest, the only guy in the entire state of Iowa that really deserves the title. We've got Senator Brad Zaun with us for probably the 81st time.
I don't know. He loves us.
He
loves us. That's the number. There's only 3 people out there, the politicians who love us. Him and Tom and Sam.
Yeah, that's right. And Sam wouldn't, but Sam wouldn't do it on camera.
No, he did. We got it on camera.
Oh, we did?
I just have to.
I'm sorry.
You know me. I have to get it to Maddie, and she's been waiting for it since before the election.
Fair enough. And we'll get to the senator in just a second. But just really quick, what do you think about this whole Brian Williams thing? It's the stupidest thing. Well, what the heck was he thinking?
Well, that's part of the problem. The thing, we're in the media, right?
We're
kind of. We're maybe on the periphery. But technically, we're in the media. We have press passes.
We've had them in the past. Yes, that's true.
We can get them again. Anyway, so the bottom line is if they give you a press pass, you're now officially part of the media. And when you're dealing with these people at the giants, NBC, CBS, all of them, a lot of what happens is they are competing with the other news desk people for a spot, for the coveted spot. Think of how many millions of dollars he makes over the years sitting there doing that job.
Yep.
So here he is in Iraq. He's, and Iraq is never friendly. It's not like, people talk about Joni Ernst not being a combat veteran. She is, because it didn't matter where you were under fire. It might not be accurate fire. It may not be, effective fire, but people are always shooting at you. People are shooting at him over there. He thinks, man, how can I scoop all my friends? How can I get myself ahead? So what he does is
he didn't need it though. He's already the anchor. He'd been the anchor for a while.
Well, but remember back then, NBC had been scooped before with the first Iraq war. They'd been scooped a couple of times by CNN and Fox News over there. And of course, NBC has a hate relationship with Fox News, and he's thought, well, what better way to get myself up front, get readership and publicity for this? You got to keep in mind anymore, the people in the big organizations are not about information. They're about selling. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really what we're all about. And so he thought, well, I can lie about this, because let's call it what it is. It's an outright lie. And boy, I'll make a big splash. I'll be able to talk about it. I'll be able to write a book, all this other stuff. So that's how his mind thought. It's a cascade.
Well, Brad, have you followed this Brian Williams thing? What do you think about that? And I know you weren't prepared to talk about this, but it was top of mind for me just a minute ago, and I'm just curious.
I haven't followed it in detail like you all have, because you're in the media. I think it's bad when anybody lies. I don't care who you are. Certainly, he's someone that sits behind a desk, and we want to believe the people that are sitting behind the desk. But I think we got bigger fish to fry. I don't really care one way or the other.
That's a good point. I guess my thought is this doesn't seem too different from your run-of-the-mill Joe, who's it feels like now. And please, folks, in the military or veterans, this is not a diminishment at all, but what he did sounds a lot like a exaggerated big fish story where he took something that had happened and embellished it in such a way to kind of allow him into the club, relate to these guys who are actually putting themselves in harm's way. But the problem for him is you are a news anchor who's sitting in a chair of the likes of Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite, all the guys that had this big cachet of being truthful, honest dudes. And you're famous and you do all these bits. You can't do that kind of thing. I've always liked Brian Williams. I think he's got a good sense of humor when he makes those appearances on like The Daily Show or 30 Rock or whatever. I think he's a really funny guy and has a lot of gravitas. But holy smokes, did he really wag his own tail or wag the dog there? That's just a really terrible thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you outright lie, which is what this is.
Oh, I'm not trying to excuse
it. This is not an embellishment, because that's, if you look at the supposed left-leaning media, NBC hasn't touched this. That's not front page on there.
Well, and they can't. They can't though, because they're investigating whether or not they're going to fire him.
Yeah,
and it would be improper for them to come out and start tipping the scale one way or the other.
Well,
so that's different. Everyone else is taking their shots.
Yeah, but the lefties use the term embellishment, but what it is a lie. If I sit there and I say, well, I'm 200 pounds, that's an outright lie. If I say, I'm 298, then that might be an embellishment.
I mean, you are 200 plus some.
Yeah.
You have 200 pounds on you.
Well, but if I sat up there and said, I don't have a long beard, I just have a close crop goatee. At this point, it might be an embellishment, but what I'm saying. I mean, there's a difference between an embellishment, which is, hey, I was, at a party with Brad, and we talked, and man, he's a great guy, and we're fast friends, and all this other stuff. When in fact, all I was walking by the front door of a fundraiser, and Brad was inside. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, an embellishment is one thing, something else. And just to be clear, because Brad's over here looking worried, we don't go out and party. I mean, Brad's not a party type of guy. I'm just saying that's
thing. He turned.
But I do like you a lot, and I do consider you a good friend.
And he turns me on all the time. I'm constantly like, "Hey, Brad, get at me," and this just never happens. But he.
We're going to leave that gay marriage thing to another show.
Well, that's hey, you went there. I don't know what you're thinking about, but Brad did make a good point. It's serious because he implicated some people and a community, and kind of really angered some of the vets with his apology that was kind of a non-apology. But you're right. There are more important things that you brought up that we want to talk about, and I think we're getting the next segment here.
Yeah, one last thing. My friend Jason, hi Katya, hi Dasha, said that Hillary did exactly the same thing, but she's gotten a pass on it. Nobody's hung her out to dry for embellishing
and
her story
I wonder,
about being under fire.
There's
somewhere.
two things. One, I think that there's a couple of differences. One, that was when she was the first lady, right?
I don't have the.
I can't remember. I know what he's talking about, but I can't remember what it was. And it was longer ago than this.
Yes, it was.
I think it was in Kosovo, but I don't remember.
But the truth is she did get a pass, but Brian Williams has been hung out to dry. And I think the reason, as politicians lie, people can accept that. But I think, here's Brian Williams, who's supposed to be truthful and have some kind of standards, and he just violated them.
Yeah.
So, we're going to come back with Senator Brad Zaun. We're very excited to have on the show. We're always excited to have our good friend Brad on. Excuse me, Senator. And
Brad's good.
I think what we're going to do is, if you don't mind, we're going to tackle Branstad closing these mental institutions after the break. I have my opinions about it. I think Lefty has his opinions about it, and Brad has his opinions about it. So we're going to have a pretty fun-filled segment. We'll be back right after this break. I want to thank all of our sponsors, Bertroshan Associates, Lubinas Law Firm, and Halo Capital at Des Moines Interest Rates. They really help us out with our website as well. Des Moines Anesthesia PC at 515-574-6442. They do a lot of pain management. Please feel free to give them a call. They're about the best set of people. In fact, I was at a conference and somebody was saying, well, I wonder where this person's Kent Krosky is one of the anesthesiologists. And this gal immediately said, if I ever needed a surgery, Kent Krosky is the person I'd want to do my anesthesia. Wow. So these guys are good. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And also, don't forget to visit docandlefty.com. we're nearing the 3-month mark since Lefty has done a blog, so it ought to be coming out any minute now.
I don't think it's been that long.
It's
been a long time.
It's like he suffers from creative constipation or something. So we'll be back right after this break.
I have no defense.
Petrosh and Associates, how can I help you?
Petrosh and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We've got our special guest tonight, Senator Brad Zaun from the, and I can't remember your Senate district off the top of my head.
20.
The 20th, right?
Urbandale, Johnston, and Grimes.
Up in the north side,
Yep.
the northwestern side,
The heartland of conservatism.
That
There's like you out
I mean, after I moved away, I feel like it tilted a little bit.
No, there's still a lot of lefties.
A little further to the bad side of par, but I mean, you got to feel like you're giving those Waukee folks a run for their money as far as conservatives go.
I do not represent Waukee.
Yep.
I tell you, Urbandale leans Republican. Johnston is a little bit bigger number in regards to the numbers. And then Grimes is pretty heavily Republican.
We got Charles Schneider out there in Waukee, who I met a couple of times.
Great guy.
He's a really nice guy. He was a guest on the show, and the only reason he hasn't been back is that I haven't talked to him in a while. But he gave a great interview on River to River. I think it was last week, talking about some of the Senate legislative agenda.
And what's River to River?
It's on Iowa Public Radio. During the session, they'll do, I think their Monday or Tuesday show will be from the law library, and they have lawmakers. I remember like a year ago or a year ago or two, whenever the Medicaid expansion was rolling out, Mike Buslow is a former classmate of mine at Drake.
Yep.
Was
great
on,
young man.
Yeah, was on a lot. Yeah, he and I were in the same section. We did a couple of projects, kind of not together. I know we did one project. We're sort of in a group, same, and we kind of hung out with some of the same people. He's a really nice guy.
Yep.
But so we've got this was kind of a shocker, Doc. If I'm gonna set you up here. It has been a criticism, and I think a fair criticism of the Branstad administration, that since he was elected for the first term back in 2010, he's been shaving off support and finances for mental health care in the state. It's been a feature of his administration for a while, and in the Register today, he announced in what you kind of described to me as a pretty shocking move, closing a couple of facilities. So why don't you take it from there?
Well, essentially, I mean, he closed a facility last year that it was scheduled to close anyway, and they'd been winding down their program. But it helped a lot of people. Now he's going to shut down Clarinda and Mount Pleasant mental health places. And the problem is as you shut these facilities down, where these people don't have a place to go. I'm all for, trying to save money. I'm all for trying to come up with something that's more efficient. I'm all for that. But the problem is just simply shutting these doesn't create the necessary support system that these people need. We're not talking about people that, are a little bit depressed but have $1 million home. We're not talking about people that, have ADHD and they need some medication. We're not even talking about people that have schizophrenia but are still productive members of society. We're talking about the truly mentally ill that are unable to function, period. And they need the support services around them. They need people to remind them to showers. Some of these people cannot even take care of themselves. We call that, the activities of daily living and executive functioning. These are people so sick that just to be able to survive, they need this support. These are the kind of places they are, and they're shutting them down. Where are these people going to go? That's the part I don't ever see. Where are these people going to go? How are they going to get help? You just can't close them down and shuffle off. That's what happened at Toledo. He shut down Toledo last year, and whether you agree with shutting down Toledo or not, we got some kind of earthquake going on apparently. Oh, it's a cleaning guy.
Yep.
So, whether you agree with shutting down Toledo or not, the problem really is all these people just got shuttled off to foster homes. The problem is a lot of those people in Toledo were dangerous. A lot of those kids are dangerous. Now, I don't want to sit there and scare people and say all mentally ill people are criminals and are dangerous. They're not. But these could be, particularly if they no longer have their support services, they don't have access to medications, and everything else that goes along with this. It's just a tragedy that this is what we're deciding to do without a plan of how we're going to take care of them, because I haven't heard a plan yet.
So, Brad, did you in the Senate did the legislature know this is going to happen beforehand? What?
Okay, I have a lot of comments on some. First of all, I am going to compliment, and I'm glad that we're having a conversation with Pat Petroch, because he's in that field every day, and I will always ask him for advice, or someone that's in that industry. Second thing, the comment you said earlier was disingenuous in regards to Governor Branstad not putting in resources or cutting resources. I'm kind of paraphrasing what you said for mental health.
Well, I think it's been fairly documented that he's been cutting funding.
Okay, that is not true.
Okay,
I could bring in figures and show you, and the reason why I say it, and I know that he's got this budget. We're going to talk about this in a second. If you don't know, we completely did a mental health redesign that increased hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 5 years for more money going into our mental health services on the county level. We broke it down in regions is what we did. Polk County actually is its own region because it's such a huge population. Now, I'm going to answer some of your questions. One thing is, did we know about that they were going to shut these down? We heard about this I think the first day of the session. So to say it's new news in this morning's paper is not true. It's been talked about. I agree with some of the statements that you've made, and certainly what Pat's made. I'm not going to support any way, shape, or form to shut these two facilities down. Supposedly they're working on a plan. I prefer, as a business person, to have a plan when you announce something like this. But I understand this was the first round of his budget. This is how most of us found out. It was in his budget. He wants to shut these two facilities down. In regards to Toledo, I did not support shutting down the Toledo facility, but we did have some problems there with some kids being locked up and that kind of stuff. And I think everybody got their belly full and just said, we need to do something different. What's upsetting to me about Toledo is we're moving kids not only in long ways, but most of them are going out of the state of Iowa, and we're paying for those services. So there is the legislator that is the head of the Human Resources Committee in the House is a guy from Mount Pleasant. I can tell you that there is no way that he is going to allow that to be shut down. But to be fair, I think it was maybe last year or the year before, in his budget was to shut down Glenwood as well. And we didn't do that as well. But
will this take legislative action? Because it's being reported that he can just do this.
I don't know. You're an attorney, but from what he can do, I don't believe he could do it by executive order.
Because that was the fight with Toledo.
Right. And I agree with what you're saying. I don't think he did, but certainly as a legislator, these changes need to come from the legislative body and through the executive branch, which would be Governor Branstad, and he could veto it or not veto it. I'm very hopeful. I really feel pretty confident that this is not going to happen, My bottom line, and this is where maybe at times I separate from Republicans. Ever since the first year I was down there, Scott Racker and I have always tried to increase the funding into mental health, especially from some of the horror stories we would hear in Polk County where there'd be 1,200 people in a line just waiting for a bed.
Yep.
So to answer your questions here, we have increased that funding where I was told that there is starting, and Pat, you'd probably know this better than anybody, that is just started to form a small line to get a bed. I don't want any lines. If someone needs services, they need to be taken care of right now. And of course, Pat has brought up a lot of great points. These are not people that are in $1 million houses that can afford to get the mental services they're actually this problem, it crosses all financial lines. I mean,
that is true.
There's mental health everywhere.
Well, and as Lefty has told me several times, he represents a lot of people, a lot of the families. The problem is,
the folks themselves.
Yeah, it's the folks themselves.
Yep.
But the problem is getting them placed anywhere. Now we've run right up to the break. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back. We're going to finish up with the closing of the mental institutions, and then I think we're going to move on a little bit to the legislative session and the gas tax. Please stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back right at the break with our special friend of the show, Senator Brad Zaun.
Hey, let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for the show. Just one thing I wanted to correct. Certainly didn't mean to suggest anything that was not true. I think what I was referring to mainly were the around and around a year or two ago that Senator Hogue and Branstad had about the veto that. With the Democrats think maybe wanted to increase it.
This was for some facilities in Cedar Rapids, which I disagreed with him on.
Right, and so I think that was more what I was suggesting. Cuts. I mean, he's been criticized, so that part of it was fair. He has been criticized for this the mental health stuff, but maybe unfairly in the media.
We have, and let me just tell you something. Mm-hmm. We have, in a bipartisan way, put more money into mental health. And so he doesn't really Governor Branstad doesn't get credit for it, but ultimately he did sign the bills that did put the money in.
Fair enough. And I just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, I don't do a lot of there are other folks out there that make it more of a feature of their practice, but I do represent a lot of these folks that have issues on mental health commitments, especially in Marion County, which for a neighbor of Warren County, they're just night and day. You go from Warren County where there's all this money per capita, and you go over to Marion County where there's just nothing. And even though Ed Bull, a friend of mine who I worked for,
I know Ed, yeah.
And I worked for him when I was in law school and known him for a long time. He's doing a great job as a conservative Republican county attorney. I mean, you got these folks who they get taken to the Knoxville hospital, and then there's no place to put them, and they're being shipped to Council Bluffs, to Dubuque, to Cedar Rapids, the judge that does a lot of it down there, and he and I talk about it a lot. There is no other option. And so when I say that this is happening, it's not a criticism of the system. Well, it's a criticism of the system kind of conceptually as an academic matter, but not of the specific mechanics, because what else can you do for some of these folks, especially if they're having a psychotic break where they need to be in a facility that can handle, that has the resources to deal with that particular issue, because that happens sometimes. And so it's a frustrating situation that I'm glad you guys are on top of, because it's important for those folks and their families.
Yeah, there's a couple of related items that don't necessarily pertain exactly to the mental health facility, but one of the things that you should know when you're talking to your colleagues up on the Hill is a freestanding mental health hospital gets much lower reimbursement rates from Medicare and Medicaid than one with a medical facility attached to it. I think that needs to be corrected.
See, and a lot of that comes from the feds. I'd say 90% of that comes from the feds. Yeah. But Medicaid, obviously, we have some flexibility on.
The other thing is I just want to put this out there. I don't know if you're aware, but Medicaid funding was increased through the ACA to try to get doctors on board. That funding has now been reduced. And Iowa looks like, from what I've read, is going to take an 18% cut.
That's correct.
Is there going to be any legislative?
I've been told there's no way we could argue it. How they come up with that figure is based on the financial performance of the state of Iowa, and unfortunately, we've been penalized because our finances are in very good order in the state of Iowa.
All right. Well,
and this goes back to, Pat, when we did that Medicaid expansion, we were promised this, and as we know, federal government comes in and makes those numbers differently. This is one of the biggest concerns that I have about the Medicaid expansion, which is going to cost us about $100 million.
Well, would you mind if I use that clip, that what you just said? Because when I tell people that, they don't believe me.
No, I'd be honored.
All right, terrific. Now we're going to move on.
I don't believe him. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It
is a fact that that's how they decide what the percentage of reimbursement is. And I'm not talking specifically about the docs. I'm talking about the money coming into our system. It's because and both the Democrats and the Republicans should hang their hat on this. We've run a pretty good, tight ship. We always have. And the reason why is there is a constitutional amendment that says we can't spend more than 98% of what we take in.
So, we're going to move on to the gas tax. That has been it was a hot button issue last year. It's a hot button issue this year. Blake and I have talked this subject to death. Can you tell me what's going on in the Capitol as far as the gas tax goes?
Well, first of all, the reason why we're having conversations this year, more so than in the 10 years I've been there, is because the governor, which happens to be Governor Branstad, has actually said, I'm open-minded. We need to have this conversation about how we repair our roads and bridges. What is going on right now? I was told that a bill was dropped today by Senator Bowman in the Senate, and that is a 10-cent increase. I believe it's immediately, or July 1st or whatever. And I don't know exactly what's going on. I know that for as long as I've been down there, there is probably going to be a vote on the gas tax. Now, Senator Gronstal says that he will not bring up the gas tax unless it's in a bipartisan way. I hear rumors, like everybody else, that there is 8 or so Republican senators that are supporting that. I do know of some that are. And he says that he needs 13. But anyway, that's kind of what's going on. I am told that there is a better chance of it coming out of the House than there is the Senate.
It being introduced out of the House? Or
to start out of the House. But I'm going to guess that Craig Paulson, because he's been burned in the past, is going to say, I'm not putting my guys up on a vote until it comes out of the Senate.
All right. So so there's competing ideas from people I've talked to about reducing the amount of money spent on other projects from the road use and making it more secure. And the second idea that's been floated around is to utilize, if there is an increase, whatever that increase is, to utilize it to improve secondary roads instead of primary roads, because apparently almost 50% of the money we spend only covers 8% of our roadways. And that's I don't know about that figure. That seems low to me.
I will tell you that the bill that was dropped today, I was told, did have something in there in regards to the money goes to roads and bridges. And so I think that's a good sign. The other thing is I know that it does not change the distribution formula, because that is a big controversial issue. Currently, because of Time 21, which is something when we increase the registration fees on trucks and license renewals and that kind of stuff, that they changed that formula somewhat where more money went into more populated areas. Of course, you have this rural versus urban split on this issue. But I do have a couple alternatives that I'd like to discuss. But
all right, we're right up on a break, so we'll be back. We're with special guest Senator Brad Zaun. After the break, we're going to talk about some of the things, some of the gas tax things you want to talk about. We want to thank everybody who's tuning in tonight. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks for tuning in.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We're going to wrap up some of this gas tax stuff, and I'm really interested to hear what Brad, you're working on more specifically here. You mentioned something over the break a couple of minutes ago about some marijuana legislation that I'm very interested to talk about if you're able to. But sure. So I heard a couple of legislators in an interview talking about the gas tax and how changing the formula was an absolute non-starter. They weren't going to touch it. That if anybody met, because that's one of the ideas, we can maybe change the formula. They said that is a no-go, and sounds like that was been confirmed. And then a guy from one of the tax relief think tanks, I can't remember the name of the group now, mentioned something along the lines of, why can't we get more efficient spending? We don't need these fancy rest areas. We don't need this or that. And the response was, well, a lot of that's tied to the federal money that comes in. And it's earmarked in such a way with strings attached that we can't do much with it. How much of the money that goes to keep like the interstate system, because we got a great interstate system, and our state highways are really good, and our and all that, the rest of that stuff. How much of that federal money is really where we're hurting, and how much of it is because we need this extra 10 cents?
I really don't. They have specific standards for any kind of repairs, and most importantly, any kind of new highways or interstates or interchanges or whatever that is. I'm not sure, and I've not been brought to my attention. I used to be on the transportation committee. You get allocated a certain amount of money, and that's basically up to the Department of Transportation to spend it where they think it's appropriate. That's why we have a Department of Transportation Commission.
Right.
So they're the people that kind of go in and decide where that money's doctored up, obviously, or divvied up. Obviously, there's certain areas of the state, you got to make sure everything's taken care of. Years ago, when I first got down there, they moved a lot of those state highways into the county's responsibility, which has caused a lot of problem with the counties. But I'm not sure that it is. I do know this. I've not heard of anything in regards to the rest stops. Well, and if that's the case, I was just out in Utah, and there's public-private rest stops, brand new ones that are built out there. So I think some of the concerns that I've heard from a lot of people is basically what Pat said about, is that money really going in the state? It is a constitutional protected fund.
Yep.
But remember, we got to pay for airports, trains, bike trails, and that kind of stuff.
Don't even get me started on bike trails.
Okay, but there's some concerns about that money has went to some good bike trails, and I like to go on those bike trails. But, we really can't afford that, and we've built out a pretty good trail system right now the way it is.
Yep.
But, there are some concerns. The artwork that I've heard about at the rest stops, these rest stops are Taj Mahals.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're doing a rest stop where there's one north of Ames on 35, and then we're putting one north of Ankeny.
Well, and that's exactly what I was talking about, this extra one that's up there. And the response that I heard, I can't remember which legislator it was, and I don't know that I would call him out anyway, said that some of that was tied to this federal money. Right. I don't know.
And that would be the first I've ever heard of that being someone that was on
and
the
maybe I could have misheard it, but that's just what I remember. I was listening to that while I was working today. So
anyway, well, so there's conversations about that, and you're exactly right. If you start messing around with the formula, you're going to cause a civil war. So I think they're going to keep that the way it is.
Are you brass tacks? Are you for it or against it? 10 cents.
I will not support any new tax increases, period. But I do believe that we got to put the money in there. Let me tell you, there's a couple reasons why. First, if we do 10 cents, I guarantee you 10 years from now, we're going to be right back saying we need that money. We're short funded because of the efficiencies in these cars and what's being mandated out of Washington, D.C. and out of Detroit. The second thing is I was a mayor. I mean, we did Northwest Urbandale Drive when I was mayor. We did Douglas Avenue. We did that interchange there. We did that. When I was on the city council, we did 86 went straight through. There was no interchange there.
Yep.
I recognize how good roads and good bridges and interchanges bring a lot of jobs. And it certainly makes it convenient for all of us where we go to our house. So I realize we got to put money in our infrastructure. We certainly don't want any bridges to crumble or anything like that. We want everything to be safe. But, we need to have a conversation about some of these bridges. I'm told 70% of these bridges that need to be replaced in the state of Iowa, there's less than 5 vehicles to go over those bridges. Most of them are tractors and combines and that kind of stuff. We all know that the agriculture, the equipment has gotten so much heavier and so much bigger. That's what the problem was with some of these bridges. So we probably need to have a conversation about it's very frustrating, not that I'm advocating this, but it's frustrating that Farm Bureau says absolutely no way on the dyed fuel. But I'm not saying that I'm for that or against that, but I think we should have a conversation. It irritates me that they won't sit at the table.
Well, that's why they moved several of the bridges of Madison County, is simply because they were covered and they couldn't support the weight of the equipment.
They were too big.
A lot of those came by.
Will the governor pay any political cost for putting his weight behind this, do you think?
Oh, he's already basically said we're going to do something.
Well, no, I know
he hasn't picked a plan yet. Now, my plan the other thing. So we're going to have a problem in 10 years from now.
Yep.
This fund is a diminishing return. That's what it is right now. You look at 10 years, 20 years ago, how much fuel gallons they're selling versus now. It's a lot less.
Yep.
Because of the fuel efficiencies. So we really need to have a conversation about how we're going to pay for our roads. Now, we've talked about this for 10 years. I have a bill that is not constitutionally protected that says we take 4% out of the revenue stream. The governor's budget is 5% more this year. Take 4% of that revenue growth and put it in the roads. Now the bridge guys or the road builders come in and say, but it's not a guaranteed fund. I don't care, but it'll put about $300 million in the roads this year. And if we continue to do it every year, I know that the legislature, when times get tough, they'll dip
into
it like they've done with cities and counties and schools. I mean, but I still say something's better than nothing. And so I believe that, and then keep the gas tax where it is. I'm not hearing from a lot of people. In fact, I hear tons of emails and calls from people saying, I am sick and tired. Every time I turn around, my property taxes are higher. Every time I turn around, my license renewal is higher. Everything goes up. My water bill goes up. My electrical bill goes up. I don't have anybody tell me to raise their taxes. When we have the revenue coming in, I don't think I think it's disingenuous to raise taxes on the people I represent.
All right, we're up on another break. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're here with our special guest, Senator Brad Zaun, representing Senate District 20 here in Iowa. We want to thank all of our sponsors, Bertrosian Associates, Halo Capital, at DesMoinesInterestrates.com, Lubinas Law Firm, Des Moines Anesthesia at 515-574-6442. They're great gas passers. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and keep up with us on DocandLefty.com. We're going to start doing polls on our website.
Oh, cool.
So we'll be back right after this break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Get away from my Sumito credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray, we're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. This is Lefty with the Doc and Lefty program. He's been on so much, it's just easier just to call him Brad. We got Senator Brad Zaun from District 20, Urbandale, Johnston, Grimes area with us. We're talking, we wrapped.
Oh, not to interrupt you. We have breaking news.
Okay.
Brian Williams suspended for 6 months.
He took himself off the air pending the investigation. I thought they were going to fire him. I really did.
Yeah, well, they suspended him.
Well,
he's very popular.
Suspended for 6 months.
But what does that accomplish? Does that mean we're going to believe him in 6 months? I don't know.
Maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll come back
with a confession for 6 months, or what?
Maybe he'll come back with a nice honesty beard.
4,000 Hail Marys.
He'll have a nice truth beard. Kind of grown.
I'm sorry to hear that.
People believe dudes with beards, but that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate for anybody going through that kind of situation. It certainly isn't anything to snicker at. That's too bad, but it probably is for the best for him and for the network.
Yeah, he created his own mess.
Yep.
Sorry, go back.
So we were.
So if the new guy that they replaces him gets great ratings,
that's
does
right.
that mean he does?
This could be a Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady thing, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because the bottom line is right now we're trying to figure out who's Bledsoe and Brady right now.
Oh no. I think that we both know that. So one of us is Belichick and one of us is Brady. We just haven't figured out. We argue about who's who. Who's the puppet master and who's the cool collected leader?
All right.
One of those is right, but hey, listeners, on the first poll, who do you, in the Belichick Brady relationship of the Doc and Lefty program, which one of us do you think is which? And don't say that he's Belichick just because he likes to wear hoodies and give terse press conferences about the inflation rates of footballs. That's not cool and it's not fair. Anyway, so Senator, you were talking about you're on the Judiciary Committee. And you're talking about some votes that you were taking. Is there anything we can expect new from the Judiciary Committee?
Well, yeah, the Judiciary Committee in the past, and I've been on the Judiciary Committee in the past, is a pretty active committee. Today we passed through, I think, about 5-6 bills. I guess the big one that I really had to do a lot of research and scratch my head and think about was we did lower the penalties for first offense. People that are caught with possession of marijuana.
Is there a weight?
There was a weight limit.
Issue?
I can't remember what it was, but it's equivalent to having like 2 joints with you. What we're trying to do is obviously we talked. You would probably be able to talk about this issue.
I can, yeah.
But there's so many younger people that are caught, which is terrible. You're breaking the law by doing this. But we don't feel like that these kids should be penalized for the rest of their life. It's on their record for the rest of life. So what we did is we moved it from a serious misdemeanor to a simple misdemeanor. But that is it. One time. You get this one shot. And the senator that is our judiciary chair is in law enforcement. Steve Sodders up in Marshalltown. And he's someone that ran the bill. Like I said, I did a lot of research. Here's the deal is, did Brad Zaun vote to weaken the penalties for someone that has an illegal drug? The answer is yes. But Brad Zaun also, that's myself, I sound like I'm talking about a third person, but I'm also a parent of 5 kids. And I understand because so many of my kids' friends have made this bad choice. And it's just darn near ruined their life.
Especially in Iowa City. Yeah. I mean, you got a son that just graduated the University of Iowa.
He's never been in trouble. Never been in trouble.
I've never been in trouble that way either, but I was in Iowa City from 2000 to 2004. Marijuana in colleges is a fact. It exists. One of my clients right now is a kid going to one of the private schools. He got caught, and he and 3 buddies had been smoking earlier in the evening, and were sitting in their buddy's car figuring out, hey, what are we going to do for the rest of the night? And they got caught. Now, they were dumb because they had illegal substances, and also were carrying around bongs and stuff. I don't know who does that. But it's one of those situations. 19-year-old kid, never been in trouble before, is going to work. We're getting a good deal worked out for him, so it's not going to ruin his life. Right. But having that serious misdemeanor hang over his head is something that I would completely support it. I mean, I think that our enhancement, and this is something that's beyond the scope of what you were talking about, but just while I have you here, I think that the way that we enhance drug offenses from first to second especially if you have a felony. So say that I get caught with a possession with intent to distribute, that's a felony, and then I pick up another charge that's automatically enhanced. I think that's crazy. If you're throwing years at people for having maybe a half ounce of weed on them or whatever, but that's something that, that's how it is. But I think I would completely support lowering the penalty for that first offense marijuana possession, because it's something that I think we're going to have to deal with more and more. I don't think that we're going to see a rollback in the usage of marijuana regardless. And if we can have a more rational discussion about what it means for people to get caught with a small amount of marijuana. Now, if they're driving, absolutely ring them up. Mm-hmm. If they're doing something unsafe, if they're stealing stuff or they commit some kind of violent crime, absolutely ring them up. That should be an aggravating factor. But non-violent drug kids, I don't know.
I'm sure I'm going to hear from a lot of Iowans on this. I decided that I wanted to vote it to keep it moving. There was one Democrat that did not vote for that. Mm-hmm. All the Republicans did, and I'm not being partisan, but I mean, it really does. It's not partisan. Isn't a partisan thing. My kids tell me that it's easier to buy marijuana than it is to buy a 12-pack of beer.
That's absolutely right. That is absolutely right.
So it's a reality. We're going to have conversations, and we'll see where it goes from here. I've been told that it's dead in the house.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple of questions of a personal nature that were texted in. Do you mind answering a couple?
Yeah, sure. I don't care.
Right. How did your son do for the Hawkeyes this year? I see it all the time on Facebook. So
he really enjoyed himself. He obviously didn't play very much. And he did graduate in December. Mm-hmm. As a father, I have to say, Pat, it was pretty cool to get to know the coaches and players and everything. One thing I discovered is we've been Hawkeye fans all of our lives. We've had season tickets for I don't know how many years. And once your boy starts playing there, you figure one big thing out. They're just kids, all those players.
Absolutely.
But it was a great experience. We got to go to a couple bowls. He played up at UNI for a couple years as well, and has no regrets. He loved it. Coaches are awesome.
My beloved Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yes. Now the second question I have is your son still dating that hottie?
So I'd rather not have that conversation.
Because the thing is,
that's his business.
If he isn't, I've been instructed to get her number for one of my nephews.
Oh,
okay. I might talk to you off the air on that.
Well, when you have a faithful listener like my brother Joe, you got to ask the questions. So
thank you for asking that.
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for making it awkward for us, Joe.
Yeah. So, that's
you bet.
that happens. So not as awkward as a Republican on the Judiciary Committee having to talk about the weaking the pot laws or whatever. But whatever. Well, that's true. I'm with it. Maybe
it's harder to do this, just so you know.
Fair enough.
I'm pretty private. I tell you, thank you for saying the nice things. Oh, yeah. My son is fully employed up in Minneapolis, so I'm really happy.
It's a good place to be.
A good-looking kid too.
My entire family.
He's a great. He's just nice, a really. Nice. We're blessed. We have 5 kids. They're all just awesome.
Yep, absolutely. Now we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back. We're going to talk a little bit more about marijuana laws, potential for medicalization. What else we got on the list?
Oh, man, there's so much, but we only have 10 minutes.
Yeah, we only have 10 minutes. We're going to rock it through the rest of this stuff. This next segment, we'll be back right after this break.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertroshandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertrosh and Associates.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for this final segment. We've had Senator Brad Zaun with us the whole hour, so I really do appreciate having you take the time. I know that you just kick it up there. You don't have a whole lot to do as a representative of your district in the Iowa Senate. You
do
just
you mean by
passing bills and voting on stuff and whatever. I'm joking, of course.
Okay.
I'm absolutely kidding. Okay. But so you, Pat, did you want to respond to some of the marijuana legislation?
A little bit about marijuana. I'm going to tell you, marijuana does work for certain things. I know in my practice,
it certainly does.
Well, I'm talking medically, but the truth is, the only thing that I have found that works better than a stimulant for ADHD is marijuana. And when I have a person comes in with multiple counts of criminal counts of marijuana, if I go through the ADHD criteria, he will meet them. These kids, it really works well for them without a lot of the side effects of stimulants. However, having said that, all the faux research out there that people says it works for pain, works for this, works for that, all that really is not true. The only thing marijuana really cures is motivation. Part of the problem is all you have to do is look at Colorado. Colorado, they estimated that they were going to bring in revenues of $100 million. In 2014, they brought in $33 million. The problem is the increased number of psychotic visits in Colorado related to marijuana. These on average are 10 days. The average cost of a hospital, just the room, is $1,500 a day. And if you add all that up, right, and this is directly due to marijuana, you're spending $264 million. Now, there was at a conference, I mentioned this statistic, and there was a physician from Colorado who says, well, basically what we do if they're psychotic and they've been smoking marijuana, we just let them cool off in an emergency room. Well, if you look at the statistics, even if you just let them cool off in the emergency room, that's a cost of $46 million. When you legalize marijuana and you're counting on that tax base, it's not going to materialize, and it's going to cost you much more. It's a lot like alcohol. The taxes for alcohol that the government gets does not cover the problems that alcohol creates. That's what I'm going to say, and that's from a medical perspective. There's a lot of good information out there about what marijuana can and cannot do, and a lot of these people that claim to be experts really aren't. One of the things I looked up for this presentation I made at this conference, they said, well, we're a medical facility. They actually have a gal standing there with a white coat and a stethoscope on. There's not a single MD, DO, PhD anywhere in that organization. It's just some guy who studied how to, use essential oils and marijuana, and he calls himself a medical clinic. So, you really have to watch that. And that's all I'm going to say.
And you look at the governor, I've been told the governor of Colorado really regrets enacting that.
Well, I don't think he was for it.
He signed it. He signed the law. So, let's just be very clear. Even though we are having this conversation, I would never support any kind of recreational use for marijuana in the state of Iowa. I am not advocating this as an illegal drug. Mm-hmm. Now, with that said, we are also segueing into something else. We are having conversations about the medical marijuana cannabis oil that we passed last year. We're having conversations. I talked to Joe Bolcom here a couple of days ago about there's going to be a bill that's going to be drafted that sets up 2 facilities in the state of Iowa that are highly regulated that would have let these people. Mm-hmm. We've obviously had on the books that if you have seizures, that you could use this oil. The THC is taken out of it. We are going to continue to have that conversation and probably add a handful of other diseases to that. And right now, I haven't decided where I want to be because I always want to read the bill first.
Yep.
But there is going to be a conversation this year about that. Hopefully, we'll get something done because these mothers that cannot transport this cannabis oil here
they can go
legally through Nebraska or wherever it is.
Right.
Yeah,
So, I got to say, speaking only for myself, obviously, and I think that's a good clarification. We have fun, little tongue in cheek commentary, but speaking for me personally, when it comes to specifically to marijuana, the criminal penalty behind marijuana, I have long predicted, inaccurately, but whatever, I think it's inevitable eventually that every single state in the country, and probably even the federal government, is going to recognize that the criminal penalties behind marijuana are insane. They don't serve the purpose for which they were enacted previously, that the dangers of the usage of marijuana are similar to the dangers of uses of alcohol or other kind of legal recreational drugs that we have. This is my personal opinion. So I'm not arguing from a place of scientific. I'm not saying that I have scientific research behind it. I know what has worked for me. I can say that I have smoked marijuana myself in the past and have turned out okay. And so I just got. I mean, that's anecdotal, but all I can tell you is that given the cultural shift in this country, it is my prediction that we will see nationwide legalization of marijuana in my lifetime, probably in your all lifetime too. And I think that it's inevitable. And I think that and not to put you in that box, Senator, because I know that you're against it, and I'm not calling you out as being soft on it.
This is going to be something that's going to in the
it's
state
gonna be
of
debated.
Iowa.
Yep.
I know very few of my colleagues, both House and Senate, that will support.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me at all.
We're talking, I'd be surprised in my lifetime in Iowa. Now, if something comes from the feds, it's a whole different story.
Yep.
But anyway, it was been a good, healthy conversation.
Well, just to address the scientific part of this, there's a major difference between most drugs of abuse and marijuana. And the problem is that the half-life of marijuana is so long that it takes about 6 months for it to completely wash out of your system. Whereas
that depends on your usage. I can tell you that from experience, not personal experience, but clients of mine.
Well, but the thing is, as far as your emotional state, the effects it has on the brain lasts up to 6 months or longer. It has to do with the half-life and the breakdown products. I promise that's true.
Well,
so what else do we want to talk about here in the last 4 or 5 minutes?
Oh,
Anything
man.
you want to talk about, Brad?
Yeah, you got anything to plug?
I'm
you know what? I know something. I'm sorry to interrupt because I'm good at that.
Mm-hmm.
You introduced a bill that would change how we do runoffs.
Right,
now.
and I've had some success. What it does is it takes the top 2 vote getters in the primary election. This would be state house races as well as federal races. And what it does is it takes the top 2 vote getters if they don't hit the 35% threshold, and they go into a runoff. I have some problem with the language I've written up because I guess it falls like the day after July the 4th. That was never my intention. I'm working with Jeff Danielson from Cedar Falls. He's been awesome to work with. He's a state government chair. We're going to fix that. It did go through subcommittee, and then it will go. I know that I feel very confident I'm going to get it through the Senate. But to answer your question, is what we do is we do away with the conventions. This is not a bipartisan issue. This could happen in either party. As you know, crazy things come in conventions. I will have to tell you, this is not my top priority, but I did experience this.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is fix the law. What I heard, the biggest complaint I heard about the convention process, and of course I lost, I wouldn't say fair and square, but I did lose by about 50 votes, is that the people that voted in the primary election felt like their voice wasn't heard when at the convention, the 5th place finisher did get the nomination.
It's wacky. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it is wacky. And what I think I'm sure what my view of this bill is that it really kind of takes away power from the establishment. Is that the intent, or is that just a happy byproduct?
It takes we have, I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody that was at that convention, because they're hardworking people, and obviously they're very interested in party politics.
Yep.
I could tell you that the establishment did get involved in the convention, and that was one of the reasons why I lost. But it happened in both parties, and I lost. And like I said, it's not my top priority, but I heard from so many thousands of people that, hey, we need to do something about this. I am going to attempt to do this. I feel very confident that I could get it through the Senate, probably on a 50-0 vote. Then it goes to the House, and we'll see what happens. I do know the state government chair promised he'd run the bill.
How are you? How are the Republicans looking for the caucuses in 2016? Kind of got some of those kinks worked out?
Are you talking about the presidential one?
Yep.
Yeah. Of course, we had our deal a couple weeks ago. I did attend that. I am going to help out. I've really never announced this before, but I am going to help out Scott Walker from Wisconsin. But there's a lot of good candidates. I like Scott because I think we need someone with a little bit of executive experience. From a standpoint of running elections, I mean, gosh, the guy's really been challenged hard. He had 3 elections in 4 years. I like someone that has a track record. I like someone that has gotten things done. Like I said, I personally think we need someone more from an executive type experience I'm talking about versus like a senator or whatever. But we'll just see what happens. There's a lot of great candidates out there, and Scott is going to spend a lot of time in Iowa.
How big was your let me ask both of this. I'll give this a panel, and this will be the last question. How big was your respective violins when Mitt Romney decided to drop out?
I'll let you go.
That's a cheap shot. That's a cheap shot coming from a Democrat.
I didn't never thought he could ever have a chance to win.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, some people. Well, I'm glad. And
I know Mitt very well. He's a great man. I think he figured out, hey, listen, I think what really happened realistically is Jeb Bush is grabbing a lot of the big donors that he had. Yep. And by the time he said, I might not, he's given us some mixed signals for a long time. So.
All right. Well, thanks, Senator, for coming on the show again. We really appreciate the insight and the legislative stuff. I'm just going to finish up with one last question. It's a needy question. Do you still love us?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
It is an honor to be on your program, and thank you to all the listeners that participate as well.
All right. We'll see everybody next week. You got any gigs this week?
Not this week. Got a couple coming up.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We will be back next week. We don't quite know what we're going to talk about.
We never do.
No. So we'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.